So, before we start talking about how to actually calculate interest, we need to discuss the fact that there are actually three different types of interest. So the first type is called simple interest, where the amount of interest that's paid remains the same for the life of the loan. So in other words, you might get charged $100 per month interest, and it doesn't matter whether you owe $1 or $100,000, every month you'll get to pay or get paid that $100 exactly. The second one is called compound interest. So basically, as the amount of money in that account builds up, so as you get paid another $100 each month, the amount of interest that you earn increases as well, because the amount of interest is based on the amount in the account at the time, not at the start of the loan. Third one is called decreasing interest. Now, we're generally talking about either home loans or personal loans, times when the bank give you money in this situation. And what they do is, as you reduce the amount that you have left to pay, the amount of interest reduces as well. So at the start, when you owe $100,000, you might have to pay $100 a month. And at the end, when you only owe maybe $1,000, you only have to pay like $1 a month in interest. I'll give you a second here to copy these down before I clear this and write the next part. So simple interest, which we're going to look at this term, is really quite simple to do. There's a very simple formula to use. The formula says SI equals PRT. Now, SI is a single term. SI means simple interest, or the amount of interest that you're going to pay. P is what we call the principal. Principal. Notice it's LE, not AL. Principal with an AL is, like Mrs. Melbourne. So the principal is the amount of money that you start with, okay? Either loaning the bank or the bank loaning you. It's the amount at the start of that loan. R is our rate, our interest rate. For this, note that our interest rate is a decimal, not a percentage. And T is what we call the term. The term is the amount of time that either you give the money to the bank for, or the amount of time that the bank gives you to pay back your loan. Let's have a look at an example of this. So, example. I might type our example so that it's a bit easier to read. So, John gets a loan from the bank with simple interest. The details are, let's say that he gets $6,000 at 4.2% PA. Now, PA means per annum or each year. Generally, interest rates are said per annum. And he gets it for 3 years. Okay? So a couple of things to note here. All right, $6,000 is our principal. That's the amount that we start with. 4.2% is our rate. And 3 years is our term. Note that our term has to be in years and our rate is always per annum. All right, so for this, our rule is, let's go back to draw. Our rule is SI equals PRT. All right, so we know that the principal is 6,000 times, note here that 4.2%, I don't put it in as 4.2, I have to change it to a decimal. To change it to a decimal, you divide by 100, or move the decimal places 2 spots to the left, so 0.042, and then our term is 3 years. So if I type that into my calculator, 6,000 times 0.042 times 3 equals, and I get 756. So equals $756. One thing to note about this, guys, is that that amount is the amount of interest that he will pay. He still has to pay back the $6,000 plus another $756. So, today's quote, seeing as how we're talking about money, says, "The character which results from wealth is that of a prosperous fool."